So I wonder what the best games to stream on Twitch are for growth. Well, actually, if you watch this video, I'm going to show you exactly what those are. Let's roll the intro. What's going on, guys? Ryan Burris here with Rytech Gaming, and in this video I am going to show you guys the best games to stream on Twitch for growth in 2020. So I'm going to have these all organized in a tier list, and in typical gamer fashion we're going to have S tier at the top, then followed by A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier, and then F tier. So F tier is going to be at the bottom for the worst games to stream, and then S tier, of course, is going to be the best games to stream for growth. Now, of course, if you guys do find this video helpful, make sure you hit a like on the video and think about subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. A lot more content just like this on the channel, and videos about once a week. And before we get into the details of the list specifically, I do stream myself every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Link in the description down below for that if you guys want to hop in and talk about any of this kind of stuff. So in order to actually make this list as accurate as possible, I had to use data directly from Twitch and other websites that collect Twitch data, comprise them all into Excel spreadsheets, and kind of go through all the numbers, grabbing out the best games to stream. So that way this list is an actual accurate representation of the actual statistics of games on Twitch. And all that means is basically that I didn't just choose which games I thought were going to be in which category. I had to run through all the numbers and figure it out. And I did this over the last couple months to try to get a pretty accurate representation of games that would be good to stream rather than just ones that had quick spikes or anything like that. With that being said, there are going to be games that are not on this list. And if you would like to know what kind of statistics your game specifically is running, let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll try to reply and get you where I think it would be on this list. The reason, however, that every game is not on this list should be pretty obvious. There's too many games, and much of them would just be way below the F tier that I have on this list. So what I did was I grabbed all the games that are the most commonly streamed, that have the most viewers, that have the most streamers, to get the best numbers possible. So anything with an actual decent following that people actually watch, I have included in this list. And I'm sure there's some that I missed as well, but these are going to be the ones that stand out most compared to other games. All right, guys, so now that you know exactly how I collected all the data and how it's ranked, let's go ahead and just hop right into it. So to start off this list, we are starting directly at the bottom in the F tier. And the F tier is comprised of really popular games that have quite a bit of an audience for them, but they also have way too many streamers streaming them. And first up on this list, completely at the bottom, is a game that I actually stream quite a bit, which is Rainbow Six Siege. Followed up by a very commonly known for being oversaturated game, Fortnite. Then after that we have Destiny 2, followed by Overwatch, and then Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Dead by Daylight is another one that's slightly above Call of Duty, with slightly better numbers. I think there's just a little bit less people streaming this game, but it's still in the F tier. Next up we have Minecraft, and then Pubg, which are starting to get a little bit better, starting to get less streamers or just more of an audience as this year goes on. And then in a three-way tie for the top of F tier, we have Escape from Tarkov, World of Warcraft, and Pokemon Sword and Shield. All three of these kind of has seen a spike recently. With Pokemon Sword and Shield, its spike was it being released, and then it's slowly starting to fall off as time goes on. World of Warcraft got pretty popular when Classic came out, and then Escape from Tarkov got pretty popular when the drops were enabled on Twitch. And that is going to wrap up all of F tier down there. And again, F tier is going to be games that are really popular, but have way too many streamers streaming them, making them super oversaturated, so you're not really gonna stand out in these categories. So they're games you probably want to avoid. And now this brings us into the next tier up, which is the D tier. It's a slightly better tier than the F tier, but it's still probably games you might want to avoid, but again, they are much better according to the statistics than the F tier games. So starting off with the D tier, at the bottom of D tier is going to be Valorant. It's a new game that just got released, so I think it's still in the D tier only because it's new, and it's harder to get to play the game right now because not everyone can just hop in and play it. So right now it's just kind of holding up the bottom of the D tier, but I think it soon will fall back into the F tier once more people have access to the game. And right after Valorant, we do have Sea of Thieves, which is a game that's kind of seen popularity on the Twitch scene pretty recently, with some big streamers actually streaming this game quite a bit. Next up, we have League of Legends, and this one was kind of surprising to me because I thought League of Legends, with the amount of streamers that it normally has, would have been in the F tier, but this one still has quite a bit of viewer to streamer ratio in it, so this one lands itself into the D tier as well. Next up, of course, we have Animal Crossing, another new released game that has quite a bit of a viewer base at the moment, but I think this one is slowly showing a decline as well, just because it's new, and as the time goes on, it's starting to die out a little bit. But as of right now, it is still currently in the D tier. World of Warships also makes its way into the D tier, another game that kind of surprised me. And at the top of the D tier list, we do have Path of Exile, which is kind of a Diablo dungeon crawler style game. And then we have CSGO, which is a first-person shooter, pretty common. It's a very popular game on Twitch as well. Both of these landed themselves right there at the top end of the D tier. And that will wrap up D tier. So moving into the C tier, we are getting into a lot better games to stream due to the fact there's not as many streamers streaming them, and they have a pretty good fan base. And first up in the C tier is Legends of Runeterra, which is Riot's brand new trading card game in a similar vein to either Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering. Trading card games are your style. You might want to check this one out because it's probably poised to get a little bit more popular than it's currently sitting on this list. So go ahead and check out this game if you do like trading card games. Next up in the C tier is FIFA 20, a sports game, dedicated fans to sports games, I'm sure you know. So if you like soccer games or just sports games in general, this might be your game. Next up on the list was a game that actually was pretty surprising to me, and it's Starcraft 2. It's a fairly old RTS game at this point. It is a fun game, but I'm surprised that the following it still has. And next up, of course, we have another game that really surprised me, and it was probably the biggest surprise on this entire list, and that's old school RuneScape. A really old game at this point, but apparently it's got some dedicated fans that still like to watch streams, and there's not that many people streaming it. So if you're ever a fan of old school RuneScape, you might want to try streaming it. And in first place in the C tier is a game called Jump King. It's a very frustrating platformer game where the whole objective is to get to the top of the tower and save a princess. And all I can say is good luck, because most of the time when you're playing this game, you're just gonna fall all the way to the bottom and get really frustrated. So that sounds like your kind of game to stream, then go ahead and check out Jump King. And that's gonna go ahead and wrap up all of C tier. So moving on over to the B tier, we do have coming up in last place, Warcraft 3, which is another old school RTS game with a pretty cult following and not that many people streaming it. Warcraft 3 is of course an RTS set in the old Warcraft universe, and if RTSs are your thing, you might want to try this one out. Up next we have Magic the Gathering, which is another trading card game, which if you're familiar with trading card games, you've heard of Magic the Gathering. I personally haven't played this one on PC or even in real life, but again, trading card games seem to work pretty well on Twitch. And up next is a game that actually really surprised me since it's a mobile game, and it's Raid Shadow Legends. Or as all the annoying advertisements all over YouTube would tell you, Raid Shadow Legends. Or however the advertisements go. Now again, this one surprised me since it's a mobile game, but again, there's not that many people streaming it, and there's a pretty big following for this game. So if you're into mobile games, or games like this, you might want to check this one out. And up next we have GTA 5, which has seen a huge spike in popularity here on Twitch due to all the RP servers that are on GTA. Now coming in first place in the B tier is Teamfight Tactics, which is an auto chess variant using League heroes. So it's Riot's take on the auto chess genre. It is a really fun game, but it does have a steep learning curve to it and a whole lot of RNG attached to it. And that's going to wrap up all of B tier. Moving on over into the A tier, we are moving into games that are really good to stream. And coming up in the last place on the A tier is poker. And you could argue that this probably doesn't belong on this list since it's technically not like a game, but I wanted to add this because it does have quite a huge following and not that many people streaming it. So if poker's kind of your style, you might want to check out, because I think this has a lot of room to grow on the platform. Now right up next is going to be Age of Empires 2, the Definitive Edition. Again, another old school RTS game with a huge following and not that many people streaming. And as you can see here, if you're into those old school RTSs, you're going to go pretty far on Twitch because apparently they all have their cult following to them. And then in A tier, we have a two-way tie to two different games. The first one being Mario Maker 2, which makes a whole lot of sense because when you think about it, Mario Maker is a game where you can get all the people in your community to build you levels. You can play those levels and you kind of just bounce content back and forth, and it's pretty interactive with your community. And it's actually a game that I might try streaming myself because it seems like a fun game to play. Although I'm really bad at platformers, so I'm sure it'll just be a whole lot of frustration. Now also in first place in the A tier is a game called Dota 2, which is Valve's take on the MOBA genre, very similar to League of Legends. However, according to the statistics, it is a whole lot better to stream on Twitch than League of Legends. It's got a pretty big following and not that many people are streaming it compared to League of Legends, so it's much higher on the list. Another game that actually surprised me quite a bit, because I know Dota 2 is not as popular as League, but apparently it still has its following, and the fact that it's not that popular is actually really helpful on Twitch because not that many people are streaming it, but it still has a good amount of viewers. And that right there wraps up A tier. Now moving on over into the S tier, which is the best games to stream on Twitch in 2020. And in last place in the S tier is another game that you could argue shouldn't really be on this list because it's not really a game, and that's going to be slots. In this directory, there is a huge following of a lot of people watching people play slot machines. So if that's your kind of thing, definitely check this out. And I wanted to include this one just because it does have a huge audience and not that many people streaming it. Now next up in the S tier is going to be chess, which has seen a huge popularity boost in the recent days with big streamers like XQC streaming them and a lot of other really good chess players that are streaming this game. So if that's you, if you're really good at chess or you just really like chess, then I would suggest you playing chess on Twitch because it's got a huge audience. Anytime people play this game, they draw in a whole lot of people. Now in first place in the S tier, so the best game to stream on Twitch in 2020 is, can we get a drum roll? Hearthstone, which is Blizzard's trading card game. And as you can see from this list, trading card games are actually really popular here on Twitch, and Hearthstone is by far and away the best one to stream according to the statistics. So if you're either good at Hearthstone, maybe you have a huge collection, or you just want to get into a trading card game, then Hearthstone may be the one for you. And that's it, guys. That's going to go ahead and wrap up the tier list of the best games to stream on Twitch in 2020. If you want to talk about how I came up to any of these conclusions, where I got the numbers, or try to figure out how you can get the numbers yourself, you can hop into my live stream as I stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Link in the description down below for that. And if you guys did find the video helpful, make sure you hit a like on the video. It was a long way to spreading this out to other people. And think about subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. More content just like this every week, and then some relevant content.